Alright guys, welcome back to another Metaplanet video. So in this video, we're going to be talking about four very important topics. The first is going to be Metaplanet's latest buy. The second is going to be Bitcoin and Metaplanet's price action. The third is going to be the Metaplanet new plan, right? And lastly, we're going to be talking about Simon Garevich comparing Metaplanet to Amazon in the 2000s, right? So quite a loaded docket for this Metaplanet video. And if you want more Metaplanet videos, obviously smash up the like button as soon as possible, right? So regarding the latest Metaplanet buy, Metaplanet has acquired 5,268 BTC for 615 million. And I believe this will be the last buy, right? Because I think they use the other 200 million for their options income strategy, right? So when we take a look at the buy price, actually this buy price wasn't too satisfying, right? Because if you take a look at the Bitcoin price, obviously it's 118,000 now, right? But a few days ago, especially going into last week, the price was 109 to 100 and maybe 13, right? So how did they get 117,000 average, right? That's quite disappointing from Metaplanet, right? So two reasons that I can speculate why this is the case, right? Number one, maybe they already sold the options to buy at 116,000 this strike price, right? Because you can see maybe they sold the option somewhere here as they were getting the international offering ready, and then the Bitcoin price just went down and down, right? And so maybe at that time it looked like a very smart strategy, right? Maybe the Bitcoin price is 120k, we sell at 117k the strike price, but obviously when they got the money it was like somewhere here, right? So the second possible explanation is they just smash bought everything when they had the chance, right? Which would be somewhere here, right? Because this is the only real date that it coincides with the same price and also at the same timing, right? Because after that, it was just down, down, and down, right? And they could have bought at a very much lower average, and they could have bought at least 5 to 10% more if they just dollar cost average, right? That's why it's quite important to dollar cost average instead of thinking, oh, I can time this the best, or I'm gonna go all in right now or all out right now, right? That's a very, very bad trap to fall into, and I think all of us have gotten into this situation, right, where we think we can time the exact bottom or something like that, right? But I am actually a little disappointed at their capital deployment because 117,000 is really not a good price, right? Considering you have all week to get something above 117,000, right? And literally 117,000 is right here, right at the peak, right? So like how did they manage to do that? I'm also quite amazed, right? The next thing that I'm a bit disappointed that they did was this, right? Actually, they posted it on the 1st of October, right? So there might be a variety of reasons as to why they did this. But 1st of October was actually a Wednesday, right? And normally Metaplanet posts their Bitcoin buys on Monday, right? So why did they do it on Wednesday? We can only speculate, right? Once again. But the main reason that I see is actually people saying that they want to boost up the Q4 Bitcoin yield, right? And if that's the case, I think that's perfectly fine. But if the other case that I can be thinking in my head is that maybe they are kind of embarrassed, right? They bought at what, 116,800, and when if they posted it, let's say on the Monday, right? This is the Monday, right? So even they posted it at Monday open, it would have been 111,000. So a lot of people will be asking them, oh, okay, how can you manage to buy at 116,800 when the price is 111,000, right? So maybe they didn't want to get questioned. Then yesterday it was already like 115,000 or 116,000. So if we lean towards they just want to use this to juice up the Bitcoin yield for Q4, then I'm not so disappointed. But if it's a second reasoning, I'll be quite disappointed. And then the other buys that we can see was also at 116,700, right? So you can see the pricing is quite similar, right? So did they already like commit to buying at this price beforehand or whatever, right? And lastly, some people say that, oh, it might be because OTC that's asked for a premium. Okay, quite frankly, OTC Dash will ask for 1 or 2% premium, not 6 or 7%, right? So I really doubt the reason is because the OTC Dash asked for a 6-7% premium, right? In that case, you can just ask them to kick rocks and then you just buy it on the open market, right? And Metaplanet can still easily buy Bitcoin on the open market, right? One day of buys, you can just buy 100 million and you still end up with 600-700 million that you needed to buy in a week, right? And this is considered for Metaplanet a big buy, right? So the next part that we want to talk about is obviously the Bitcoin price action. You can see it bottomed at like 108 or 109,000, right? And a lot of people were actually panic selling. We saw the biggest liquidation ever on Bitcoin on this Thursday, right? And you can see that it was only a 3-4% down move on Bitcoin, right? So obviously, if anyone is trading with leverage, you need to be really, really careful and manage your risk, right? You don't want to be wiped out just by a 3 or 4% move, just for it to be up few thousand the next day, and then you say, oh, if only I didn't get liquidated, now I'll be rich or something like that, right? And when we take a look at the Metaplanet price action, you can see it's just down for the past about 100 days, right? And then we reach this bottom, which is 496. This was even below the international offering price. And then we saw this huge bounce on Tuesday morning after the US had a really, really good session, right? And the next day on Wednesday, we saw that it just dumped 10%. Just for no reason, right? There was no real news until this Simon Garovich post, which was after the market closed, right? So this dump was a bit suspicious. But basically, we cancelled the dump and we're back at 575, right? Which is where we closed on Tuesday. So if we just act like Wednesday and Thursday didn't happen, we are still in Tuesday prices, right? But in my opinion, this is a good sign, right? We didn't break the previous low, right? Even when we have this 10% dump. And this is allowing some market structure and also momentum to build back up, right? Because imagine you have a 12% update and then the next day it's down 13 or 14 or 15% and it goes even lower, right? Then people will start to panic, right? Will this thing stop going lower or anything, right? Even if I saw something like that, technically it will be very bad, right? It'll be something like this, right? Where you move up 8% and then you just go sideways and then you dump again, right? So it's good to see that potentially we might have already bottomed out on this candle and it's up from here. So when we take a look at the fundamentals, obviously Metaplanet has close to no debt, right? So if you say, oh, this stock is going to zero, I'm gonna have to stop you right there because it's very hard to go bankrupt with 30 million in debt outstanding, especially when you have 3.6 billion of Bitcoin, right? And when we take a look at the MNAV, it's 1.23, so it's extremely low compared to what we have seen historically, right? So if we take a look at the historical MNAV, it was all like 5, 6, 7, 8. Even the lowest here was what, 2 point something, and now we're sitting at 1 point something, right? So hopefully we see some rebound in the MNAV, right? Maybe we were quite stupid not to sell at 8 times MNAV, but what can we do, right? We live and we learn, right? So at this point in time, I do still think Metaplanet is low risk and also high reward, right? So again, I repeat what I said the last video. I don't think we're going under 1 times MNAV, right? Which means the maximum downside I see is another whatever it takes to remove this 0.23 times MNAV. But also, obviously, we have to factor in Bitcoin price, right? If Bitcoin price goes down, obviously, the stock price can continue to go down, right? So next, let's look at the Metaplanet Phase 2 Bitcoin platform, right? And we're going to start off with this, which is they exceeded the 2025 year target, which is 30,000 Bitcoin, which they raised this target in the first place, right? So while achieving this 30,000 BTC target is quite impressive because it shows that a lot of people want to buy Metaplanet stock, right? It's not that impressive when it comes to the per share how they achieved it by per share metrics, right? Because obviously if I offered you to buy 1 Bitcoin for 1 Bitcoin, you'll ask me there's no difference, right? So in this case it's the same thing, right? So if they just keep selling stock at a 1 times MNAV, then there's no difference, right? But in this case, obviously they did sell it at 1.1 time or 1.12 times or something like that, right? So when we take a look at the next target, it's 210,000 BTC or 1% of the Bitcoin by 2027, right? And they have this little teaser they call Project Nova. So we'll have to see in the upcoming months what this Project Nova is, right? But when it comes to the Bitcoin treasury operations, I'm quite disappointed how they killed the MNAV, right? Because of the international offering. But obviously, if the market picks up again, we might see 3, 4, 5 times MNAV once again, right? And I think that would be a very, very fun ride for Metaplanet shareholders. When we take a look at perpetual preferreds, they're aiming for a 25% net asset value target, right? So highly accretive, irrespective of MNAV, right? And I do think I have a little more confidence when it comes to the perpetual preferreds now, right? Because of what they did with the revenue generating business, right? Because when we take a look at their options revenue in Q3, right, it's 2.4 billion, right? This is about 16-17 million US dollars, right? And if we analyze that, it's about 64-70 million US dollars. So if we take a look at 70 million US dollars and the preferred is about 5 to 6%, right? Let's just call it 6% to make the math easier. We can hold up to 800 million or 900 million in preferred shares without actually selling any common equity in the future, right? So I think if they have 70 million in Bitcoin income, they can use this to offset the preferreds, right? Which is pretty good because you don't have to sell common equity to fund the preferred shares, right? Which in that case, to me, it just seems like a Ponzi scheme, right? And they do mention this in Y-scale preferred capacity, right? You can see 100% accretion. This preferred share issuance increases Bitcoin yield without common equity dilution, right? And second, you have leveraged common stock exposure to Bitcoin appreciation. Next, you have market dominance, right? So actually now I'm actually looking forward to these preferred stocks, right? Rather than last time I was scared that they overdo it. Okay, are you just going to sell common equity to pay for the preferred shares? In that case, I wouldn't be very like supportive of it, right? But in this case, I think if they use the options income to supplement the preferreds, I'm more on board with it, right? But the question is also what happens if Bitcoin dumps a lot, right? Imagine that they are selling options somewhere here, selling options somewhere here, and then Bitcoin just does something like this, right? And what happens to their options, right? Because they have to buy up those Bitcoins that they sell the options for, right? And if they buy up the Bitcoin here, they won't have any fiat currency left to continue selling the options, right? So for that part, we'll have to wait and also reevaluate when the time comes, right? But overall, I think currently Metaplanet represents a low risk and high reward way of playing the Bitcoin cycle. And there are quite a few things to look forward to as we see this chart is quite depressed. I see everyone in the Discord, oh my god, my wife is going to divorce me. Maybe don't put 100% of your net worth in Metaplanet. I think no matter how rich you are, that's a bad idea. But if we take a look at current conditions, obviously number one, sentiment is incredibly depressed. Number two, the cost to borrow for shorting now is actually insane, right? And number three, we are so close to 1 times MNAV. If I'm a short seller, would I be short selling at 1.2 times MNAV where my maximum upside is 20%? And this Metaplanet stock sometimes goes up today like 12% a day. I wouldn't be doing that, right? I don't think that would be very smart. So for the last part, obviously, we have to have some hopium, right? Because the share price has been getting absolutely destroyed, right? But when we take a look at some of the last Metaplanet runs, right, you can see it's a 600% run within 108 days, right? And how many weeks is 108 days, right? It's about 6 to 12 weeks, right, for most of these cycles that I calculate. And then when we take a look here, from the bottom to the high, it's also another 500 something percent, right? So when we take a look at the second big run, it's 600%, which I think most of us found Metaplanet somewhere here, right? 600% in about 70 days, which is about 10 weeks. So if we use our Unga Dunga math and say that it'll run like 400-500%, right? Because obviously we have to factor in diminishing return, right? So let's just use 450%, right? We can see that the price target is like 2,700 yen, right? If history repeats, right? So one potential way that we can look at the last, basically a boom and bust cycle, right, is that these cycles happen very fast. Maybe this is a short squeeze, and then maybe this is like a market coming back to reality, right? So if we extrapolate and we say this is maybe a longer boom and bust cycle than Metaplanet has had in the past, right? Because we can see here it's also a negative 80%, right? But this was within 14 days, right? And then we can see that maybe this asset is maturing and the runs will take longer and the bust also will take longer, right? So potentially we can also put in our heads that maybe this was just part of the cycle, right? You want this like 500% upside. You also have to take like a 75% drawdown from top to bottom, right? Obviously, if you bought in all here, yeah, that's very, very unfortunate, right? But if we see something like 2,700, you'll hear everyone screaming once again, okay, Metaplanet's going to 10,000, and at that time, you might see the RSI once again above like 85, right? So if we hit a price target of 2,700 and the RSI is like above 85, I think that might be a good time to start taking profits, right? Because at that time, you will also be hearing people say, okay, Metaplanet is the best thing since sliced bread. It's going to go to 10,000 and stuff like that, right? And that was what we were hearing here also, right? So you can see this signal has been 3 out of 3 signal now, right? Above 85 RSI, almost 90 RSI. We had a 80% correction. After that, we have a 57% correction. After that, we have a 74% correction, right? If last week was the bottom, then yeah, this is a 75% max drawdown, right? So you can see this signal is a pretty good signal for us to exit Metaplanet as well, right? So for the last topic of conversation, because this video is already very long, right? So I just want to quickly go through this, right? This is Simon Garovich comparing Metaplanet to Amazon, right? And in my opinion, honestly speaking, I really dislike Simon Garovich for using this comparison, right? Because Amazon is an operating business. The stock and the company is completely detached from each other. In Metaplanet's case, the stock and also how the company performs is quite stuck together, right? Imagine if we continue having a 1x MNAV, how are they going to continue to build, and how are they going to continue to improve the company? They just can't, right? And Planet's only business is to raise capital and buy Bitcoin, right? While Amazon is a company that has millions and millions of customers using their products daily, right? So I think this is a really, really bad comparison by Simon Garovich, right? I know some people, Metaplanet Maxis might say, oh, how can you say something like this, blah, 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 it's so bad against the stock. But in my opinion, I'm just being objective, right? I'm calling it like I see it, right? And the way that this is framed is definitely to sucker in newer investors that don't know what they're doing. They say, oh, if Amazon stock can go down so much and then they can go up 100,000%, so can Metaplanet, right? But this is obviously not the case, right? So yeah, absolutely jam-packed video, right? Comment below, right? What do you think of my price targets, my methodology for Metaplanet stock? Because obviously, if there's any time that this Metaplanet run is going to happen, it's going to be within this next few months, right? Because of the things that I mentioned, the depressed sentiment and all that. And also October towards end of December is also like the best time for Bitcoin, right? Seasonally, Q4 is the best for Bitcoin. So if we see a lot of enthusiasm in Bitcoin, obviously a lot of people will also discover these Bitcoin treasury companies, right? And if this timing doesn't fit, then I think we might just be cooked, and see you next cycle, right? So yeah, that's about all I wanted to share today. If you did enjoy the video, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. With that being said, have a fantastic day ahead, and peace out.